All right, let's take a look at number 11, picking back up in the review here for linear graphing, test 4. Write the equation of the line in y equals mx plus b form, given that the slope is -2 and the y-intercept is 0, 6. So when we're putting this in y equals mx plus b form, we just use the 6 for b and -2 for m. Every equation of the line has a y and an x in it. The only parts that change are the m value and the b value. Now, since this is a positive 6, we put plus 6. We're at a -6, we would put -6. Oh, I do like to point this out in the linear graphing review. There will be 2 questions in the test that look very similar. On question 12 here, we are asked to find the slope and y-intercept of the equation. But we're in standard form, which is the same as number 4 here. In number 4, we were asked to find the x and y-intercept of an equation in standard form. And so to find the intercepts, that's where we plug in 0. That's not what we're doing on number 12. If we're asked to find slope and y-intercept, then we need to rewrite into y equals mx plus b. Students will attack this problem the same way because it's in standard form. It's asking for the y-intercept, but students will confuse the slope and the x-intercept. Slope is the m of our y equals mx plus b. So we need to take 2x plus 6y equals 18 and get y by itself. So I subtract 2x from both sides. I'm going to put my x term and then the constant of 18, so -2x plus 18. And now I divide everything by 6. I'll go over here. So now y is by itself. It will probably ask for the slope as a reduced fraction. So negative 2 over 6 is the same as -1/3. And we can put the negative sign as long as it appears once in the fraction. The fraction is negative. We can put it to the left of the fraction bar, up in the numerator, or in the denominator. But we put the x right next to it. 18 divided by 6 is +3. Again, students will make the mistake of putting the x in the slope, in which case Alex will count it wrong. And it will probably also count the y-intercept wrong if it's not listed as an ordered pair. So make sure to pay close attention to how it's asking for the values. So again, don't just plug in these zeros. That would give you the y-intercept, but that would not give you the slope. To find the slope, we have to rewrite into y equals mx plus b form. Unless we're using the slope formula, like on number 16, which we'll get to shortly. Here's 13, which is the vertical line test. In order to be a function, the x values cannot repeat. And we can prove this visually by looking at the image of the graph here, this V shape, the absolute value graph. If we make a vertical line, we only hit the graph once. No matter where we put that vertical line, it passes the vertical line test. So is the graph a function? Yes. The graph is just moving along like the x values, if we think about it that way. The only things that kind of fail the vertical line test are like a circle, that would fail. Some sort of C shape would fail the vertical line test. Something like that. Here we are given a relation. A relation is a set of points. We list the domain. The domain, of course, are the x values. The range are the y values. And so we list each element of the domain once. Alex might put the set braces. You might have the answer field with the set braces provided. Sometimes you have to put the braces in yourself. So again, just look at the question. Our range, we have our values, -5, -10, -15. We don't have to put these in order. We just have to list each element once. And the x values do not repeat. So yes, it is a function. For number 15, we do have repeating x values. So no, it is not a function. We list each element of the domain once. That's a closing bracket right next to a 3. Might look confusing. So only 2 elements of the domain here, the -5, which we listed, and the 3, which we also listed. We don't need to list -5 twice. The range, 6, 7, and 8. Those are the y values. And separate them by commas. If you just have a graph, like number 13, in case you have a question like this, the arrows indicate that we're going on infinitely. So the domain would be negative to positive infinity. Of course, using parentheses at the infinities, because infinity is never a specific value. You need to know the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We'll start with number 17 here. I suggest you label your points. That's our first x and our first y, so x1, y1, x2, y2. So the slope is y2 minus y1, that's 3 minus 8, over x2 minus x1. So again, it's a minus in the formula. Our x2 value is negative. Oh, well, that doesn't change anything. But just do minus a negative if you have a negative y or x1 value. -6 minus 1 in the denominator. So 3 minus 8 is -5. Negative 6 minus 1 is negative 7. We would simplify that as a positive 5 over 7. It's a negative divided by a negative. These are the special cases. So we have x1, y1, x2, y2. So we fill in the formula. Y2 minus y1 is 8 minus 2. X2 minus x1 is 6 minus 6. So we get 0 in the denominator. If 0 is in the denominator, the slope is undefined. And I believe you just have a button that says undefined that you can click in those cases. So again, 0 in the denominator, we are undefined. For number 18, we'll end up with 5 minus 5, so we'll get 0 in the numerator. So y2 minus y1 is 5 minus 5 over x2 minus x1, 8 minus 2. Gives us 0 over negative, positive 6, sorry. But it doesn't matter what's in the denominator, because 0 divided by anything is 0. So don't confuse undefined and 0. Here the slope you would enter is 0. A few ways we could solve number 19 here. We're given a function to evaluate at these given values. So we can take, f of 4. If we think about this as f of x, 4 is in the x spot. So here we just plug in 4 everywhere that we see in x. So 8x squared is 8 times 4 squared plus 9 times 4 plus 7. And so order of operations means that we need to square the 4 before we do anything else. Get rid of this exponent. So 8 4 squared means, this is 8 times x squared. So this is 8 times 16 plus 9 times 4 plus 7. And now we can do our multiplying. 8 times 16 is 128 plus, again, order of operations. We have to multiply before we can do our adding. 9 times 4 is 36. And then carry down the plus 7. And this adds up to 171. So f of 4 is 171. I hope that's right. That's a big number. But we end up with 8 times 16, so, we end up with a large value. Maybe doing this much arithmetic is kind of daunting. You could try to do this all, in this screen. 8 parentheses 4 squared plus 9 times 4 plus 7. And we could get our answer. We could also type the function into y1 and go to the table. And that's kind of maybe the safest way to do it if you're worried about this problem. So do 8x, to square something. There's the squared button. plus 9x plus 7. So you can check and make sure that what you typed in matches the function, and it does. And we can go to the table. There's our where x is 4, y is 171. We're just basically finding the y value at this given x value. And so to find f of negative 2, we just have to scroll up to negative 2. And that y value is 21. So a few different ways you can work that problem. Number 20, you'll have a couple of these word problems. It says several years ago, the average earnings for male workers between the age of 25 and 34 with a high school diploma was $25,800. Comparing this value in constant dollars to the average earnings 23 years later, that's why the x values are 0 and 23. 23 years later, the average earnings have decreased to $21,200. So at year 0 of this problem, the earnings were $25,800. 23 years later, we are now at $21,200. Time is on the x-axis in these word problems. So all we have are like an x1 and a y1, an x2 and a y2. And average rate of change is just another terminology, another term for slope. So y2, again, it's the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 21,200 minus, so that's my y2 minus my y1 of 25,800 over x2 minus x1. Perhaps you're wondering, what if we switch these values? Like what if this was x2, y2, and this was x1, y1? You would still get the same answer. You just can't switch. You can't say like this is x1 and this is x2. That would be very wrong. So we'll just do 21,200 minus 25,800 and get that. 23 minus 0 is just 23. So I'm just going to hit divide by 23. So it will divide the previous answer by 23. And we get a nice, neat whole number. The slope here, the average rate of change, is negative 200. If it asks for what the slope represents, I think I'm confusing that with my AIM course, but it's negative $200 for every 1 year, because the Y's are dollars, the X's are the years. So unfortunately for the males in this question, earnings have decreased by $200 every year. Finally, number 21. A house painter charges $50 for a room visit and $26 per room painted. Write a function that describes the cost of hiring the painter in terms of the number of rooms painted. Let f of x represent the painter's charges and the variable x represent the number of rooms. So, in these word problems, there is a one-time fee. That's basically the y-intercept, the b value. And then you have, well, it tells us that x is the number of rooms painted. And $26 per room means 26x. So make sure you pair the x with the right value. Oh, sorry. That's the only way students get this wrong, is they'll pair the x with the one-time fee, not the per, in this case, room fee. So 26x plus 50 would represent $26 per room plus the $50 fee for coming to the house. And so use this equation to find the cost of a 7-room house. So f of x is cost, so, cost, or f of x equals 26 times 7 plus 50. 26 times 7 is 182, plus 50 gives us a cost of $232. I think that's it. Yes, it is. So, if you have any questions from the review or the homework, reach out anytime. And good luck on the test, and I hope that helps.